Hi. Hi to you. Welcome to our very first Fierce Happy Hour. I am your host, Jen Hatmaker. I hope you brought some snacks and whatever. Okay, this is sparkling water. And in Texas, as in lots of places in the deep south, we like to put our names on things, on anything that we just can. So my friend Jenny got a cricket. Do you know what that is? And she has cricketed our names and words on every single thing in the whole world that's not pinned down. This particular cup is from one of my favorite places I've ever been, Traverse City, Michigan. Remember when we used to go places, you guys? Remember that? When we used to go to a place that isn't our house? I also have blueberries, and I hope that you do too. I hope you have a snack. I would understand blueberries isn't that fun of a snack, but it's a little fun. Um, Welcome. I am. I just popped out of bed this morning and I was like, happy hour day. This is what I've wanted to do. I have wanted to gather you, my community, around this for 2 years since I started writing it. And so for me, this is what I am finally getting to share with you, like in this large group setting. So we originally thought that this was going to be a way that you could have book club, right? We were going to make this beautiful workbook for you that, of course, you now have in hand. You could gather your friends in your living rooms. Well, now we're gathered online. So I want to tell you a couple of quick housekeeping things before we get into it. First of all, absolutely 100% be chatting with one another over in the chat box. It's like really, it just says chat. So that's helpful to just be what it is. It says chat. So there are so many of us on here. I'm telling you that you will have friends on here. You will have community members on here. Oh, I see that my people are here, the wine people. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. Also, if you have a question, can't get to all your questions. However, if you have a question, there's a place that says Q&A. See, again, so helpful. Drop it in there. Okay, this is a big deal. Over 1,000 of you that are on right now, when you registered, notice that little thing at the bottom that said, hey, we're giving away a bunch of free audiobooks and ebooks of Fierce to your friends. So nominate somebody who you know doesn't have a copy yet, they're not a reader yet, but you think they would love this. And every single week of Fierce Happy Hour, so starting today and then the next 4 Mondays, so all 5 weeks of this, every week we are giving away 15 audiobooks and 15 ebooks. So we have already selected this week's winners, all 30 of them from your nominations. And as soon as this is over, we are emailing them their prize, which is a whole free book. So listen up. In case you didn't think we were serious about that, I know that you're already registered, most of you on here, but if you would like to nominate a friend, it's not too late. Just go back to the link. The link's going to be over there in the chat. It's the same link you registered through. You're already registered. It doesn't matter. It cancels out duplications, but just go back to that link and nominate some of your friends to get the free book next week, because we're really giving it away. 15 and 15 every single week. Okay, so just use that same exact registration link. It's like it's a 10-second process. So won't you be a great friend when your friends win a free book? You're the best kind of friend. What else was I going to tell you? Oh, some of you are joining us today and you haven't registered. Fine. This is all free. Everybody's welcome. Huge front door. Huge. We're glad that you are here. I would love for you to go ahead and register so we can send you the workbook. So what everybody has in their possession now is this incredible digital workbook that kind of walks us step by step through every single chapter, every single idea. It really, I'm a person who, for whom like workbooks and tools are incredible resources for me, because sometimes I struggle to get an idea and wrangle it down into something I can use. Like I can't figure out how does this affect me? So these are, it's so guided to kind of grab you by the hand and say, this is what this could look like in your life. Let me ask you some really intense questions and see if you can sit still enough to hear your own voice and see what she has to say. So if you haven't registered, go to the link. We're going to put it up in the chat. It's just, and if you don't see it, it's on my website. It's jenhatmaker.com underneath the events tab, and just register. I mean, it's a simple matter of just putting your name and email in. And then of course, don't forget to nominate your friends for free books. It's all right there. Okay. I think that's all the stuff. Okay. Let's talk about section 1. Section 1 is who I am. And we discuss, this is how I am wired. I'm wired this way. I am exactly enough. And I am strong in my body. Let me just high level real quick, because I want to lay a foundation for this work, the work that you are doing, the work that you are engaging right now, and what this looks like for you. This is the thesis, girls. This is the absolute pavement that is laid at the foundation of this work. And it's this, that truth is our only way to freedom. Okay? It's our only way to freedom. So let me talk about that for just a second. Let me explain what I mean by that. Because this is the thread, this is the through line on every page of every chapter. So you and I learned really early on, I mean, super early, that adults and sometimes parents and teachers, and even our peers, of course, preferred a version of who we actually were, right? These are just cultural norms. I mean, you weren't alone. We were kind of born into this. And it became pretty clear what girls were supposed to be like, what they were supposed to sound like, how they were supposed to act, how many opinions that they were allowed. It became pretty clear which type of girls were going to be rewarded, right? Which personalities fit the template that we were handed. It became super clear, super early. I was not out of first grade, and I already knew what girls were supposed to look like, right? I could look around really quickly and go, these girls are going to have a lot of privilege, and they are going to be rewarded. These girls are going to struggle. They don't fit the template, and thus they're probably going to spend a great deal of their adult life trying to, right? This is the game that I hate. And so what happens is we got the memo, right? We got the memo. And so we started really early to bury important, precious things. The way that we even just were at our core. Forget what we do. Let's just set that aside. We get to that later in the book. What we do, what we care about, what we work toward, what our dreams are. We're going to get to that. But in this section, when we are just talking about who am I? This is who I am. We're at the core of who we are. We learned which parts of ourselves were not welcome. Some of us were too much. Hi. Big shock that I was considered a lot. Some of us were told we weren't enough. We were too shy. We were too quiet. We were too cerebral. We were too in our head. We were too antisocial, right? We know the parts of us that didn't fit the norm, and so we started burying. And so what happens when you start burying important, precious things when you are young is that the next thing you do is you learn to bury hard, painful things, right? If the very best parts of us didn't even have permission to live out in the open, to live out on the outside of us in the wild, then we figured out real damn quick that the hard, painful parts better stay buried too. Those would certainly probably not be welcome. So we shoved, pretended, faked our way through. And then we learned to bury embarrassing, humiliating things, things we felt like we were too scared to say out loud. We were too afraid to admit. We were too scared to own and to face and to deal with. And then so ultimately we buried everything deep and true, right? And we know it's easy to do that. We know because it's rewarded behavior. And so when we walk into a room and we read it quickly, which is our skill set, and then we just simply give it what it wants. The problem with that terrible system is that it works, right? People like when we do that. They like when we maintain the temperature of the room that they set. We like when we are the one to adjust so that nobody gets a little too warm or no one gets a little too cool. We'll shapeshift inside our relationships, inside our environments, inside our faith communities, sometimes inside our marriages and family, inside our industries and our career spaces, sometimes inside our geographical set of norms. Do you know what I mean? Like wherever you live in the world, there's a kind of standard way of operating, probably where you're at. So we figured out that it was not always rewarded to be different, to step outside the lines. What happens is a bunch of us did that for so long and so well and with such skill and precision that we wake up one day as a grown adult and we're lost. We're lost at sea. Who even am I? Where am I? What do I love? What are my hopes? What do I want? What do I believe? What's at the core of me? How do I love, and how can people love me well? And all of a sudden we're facing down this incredible work of reintegrating. And that's a word you hear me say a lot in Fierce, that I am very interested in being an integrated woman, meaning, and I've said this, but I noticed in my life, girls, that I was reading all these different rooms to give them what they want. But what that meant was there were several different versions of me. So I was this Jen over here in this room, and to great effect. But in this one, I was a little bit different. A lot of crossover, but I made some really important tweaks for those group norms. Over here, there was yet a third me, where that standard was a little bit different. And then back here, way back here, this was the one true me, the one room in which I was my real self, my actual whole person, where I had safety, and thus I felt free to ask my questions, say what I wanted and needed, ask big things about what do I actually believe? Where's my faith in all this? What do I really want? And so I just decided, here's the thing, you guys, we can do that. I did that for quite a while. You might understand that too. But it is not sustainable. It isn't. What happens is these different versions of you end up competing and ultimately contradicting, right? And you know it, And eventually everyone else knows it. And not only that, you end up feeling like a fraud. You feel lost in your own life. It's as if we just conceded agency over our own good hearts, minds, and souls to a game that we can't even win. Like, it's a rigged game. And I know what some of you are thinking. I really do. I really do. I listen to you. You are my people. You are my beloved community. I was on a podcast this morning, and I was telling him, who was interviewing me, I'm like, I'm not kidding. I have the community of my dreams right now. That's you. We have clawed our way through a bunch of stuff together, and here we are. And you are precious to me, but I know you and I listen to you. And I know that some of you are thinking right now, like, oh no, I cannot tell the truth. Remember, that's my thesis, that truth is our only path to freedom. I can't tell the truth. I can't say what I actually want. Maybe I don't even know it. I don't even know it. That's been so far apart for me for so long. I don't even know where to locate or what is true is hard. It's a hard thing. I can't say what's true right now about my addiction or my affair. I can't say what's true right now in my marriage. I can't say what's actually happening in my family. I am silenced in my workplace culture. I don't get to say what is true. The cost is too high, right? I don't want to pay it. Everything would crumble if I said what was true. And some true things are beautiful. It's who you are. Like, it's what you want. It's where you're going. It's your dreams. It's if I said what was true, then that thing would crumble. That thing would crumble, Jen. And you are asking something that is too hard. And so what we say is, I just would prefer to keep the peace. That's kind of what we say. I want to keep the peace. But do you know what happens? When we spend our whole life keeping the peace, we have no peace. It's our peace we forfeit. Okay? It's ours. And so I want to suggest to you that lying and pretending and posing and faking, these aren't free either. These have a cost. And the cost is yours. And you're paying it. And your relationships are paying it. And your community ends up paying it because you are not showing up. You are not showing up true. You are not showing up real. You are not unleashed in your own beautiful life. And so that's not free. So here's our choice. We can either pay to remain literally in bondage, or we can pay to be free. And I submit that paying to be free is the right path. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, but it bears repeating. If something in our life, a relationship, an environment, a faith community, a belief, if it is only held together because we are complicit in our silence, if it is only held together because we have duct taped it with lies and we are not telling the truth about it, then this thing was a lie to begin with. If truth can make something crumble to the ground, then that thing deserves to crumble. Does this make sense? And let me tell you some great news. Guys, truth it can be the most redemptive path. When something is in need of reform, when it is in need of redemption, truth can restore it to its best version. When we are brave enough to shine truth on relationships that are broken, if there are two people inside of it committed toward health and growth, truth can be the final thing that sets it free. Finally, when we just say, this is what it is, this is what is happening, let's face it, let's deal with it. Truth can literally get us to the other side where something is better than it was before, mended, stronger than it was originally, right? So we can pay to stay hidden, or we can be free. We can be integrated. This is what I want for us. I told you early on in Fierce about my 6th grade teacher, Miss Anderson. That's how I opened up chapter 1. And I wanted you to think about this. This is in your workbook. You guys, don't you dare not use this workbook. It is such a great tool for you. this will literally, we will grab each other's hands and walk through the work together. Okay. It is an incredible guide. And so I asked you in there, essentially, who told you early on that something in you, something about you was unwanted, right? That maybe it was unworthy, that it was unlovable. Was it how you were wired? Was it just like literally your core soul, your personality, the way that you are a human in this world? That's how Mrs. Anderson felt about me. She didn't like me. She just didn't even like how I was wired at all. I was way too much. I was a mega, referring to chapter 2. Those of you who have already gotten through that, when we kind of discuss these volumes that we can potentially fill, mega or mezzo or modest, all three important, all three precious in the world, all three necessary. There is no one volume to be that's better or worse or right or wrong. The work is, how am I designed? How do I thrive? How do I flourish? And I was a big, fat, mega personality in an environment that preferred their girls domesticated, right? I was too wild. I was always too wild. And so I want to make sure that you heard me in chapter 2, when I say I'm exactly enough, that the message of Fierce is not an attempt to get every single woman to be the loudest trumpet in the band. I know this is a very aggressive title. I mean, do you know me? First of all, I did try to title this book The Most Confusing Thing Ever, that you could never say or remember, right? Or write. So I feel like I did well done on that. Mission accomplished. So I know this is a really assertive title, but do you understand that women can be fierce and free and full of fire in every container, in every sort of package, with every sort of personality, behind the scenes, quietly on the sidelines, big and loud out front. We need this all. Okay, the work is not how do I get to be loud? How do I roar? The work is, how am I me? How do I get to live freely me in my relationships, in my work, in my church and faith space, in my heart and spiritual soul and mind, right? How do I get to be me? That is the work. And can I just say this one quick little thing? And we're about to pivot to some Q&A, okay? By the way, Team Jen, I forgot to pull up some of the questions, so I'll be looking for those on my screen. I say this with all the love in my heart for our community. Sometimes the worst offenders here, the ones insisting that we either tone it down or amp it up, or we reimagine the packaging somehow, or the wiring needs reform or it needs critique, are women. We have got to commit to taking down the female on female crime here. We've got to stop policing each other, okay? We've got to stop policing each other. We've got to stop saying, the way that you are, something's wrong with the way that you are. We got to hold the door open wide. This is a table that we are setting for one another, and may it be enormous, okay? I'm going to get up on top of that question so you can see my face a little bit better. We've got to be each other's sisters. Look, we got the entire patriarchy already determined to see us silenced and sidelined, right? We do not need to pile on. This is a sisterhood that needs one another. We have got to be able to count on each other here, to say who you are is valuable and worthy and good. And that's who you should be. That's who we need you to be, actually. I'm going to ask you this question. First of all, I'm going to read you something. This was, I posted about our happy hour this morning. I thank you for taking that question away, and I'll need it back up in just a minute, and I'll tell you when. A person on my Facebook page, and her name is Dawn, she wrote this morning. Jen, I pre-ordered the book and I started it. I couldn't get past the introduction. I was wrecked by a single sentence. I am finally the exact same on the outside as I actually am on the inside, without posturing, posing, or pretending. I read it several times over because I couldn't go any further. I was shook. I kept trying to pick it back up to continue, and I couldn't. But Abba has been doing some amazing work with me through this quarantine time, and I think I'm ready now. I picked up the book again this morning, and I read that sentence again, and I heard Abba say to me, I'm calling you out. The world needs to hear you just as you are. Yes, Don. Yes, that's it. And so to you, right before I pivot to the Q&A, if you got really still and really quiet and really honest, how would you answer this question? What is the main way right now that your insides do not match your outside? Is there one main area? Is there one main thing? Let me fine tune the question. What are you burying right now? What are you hiding? It's okay. You're not alone. But what are you hiding? Where are you pretending? I know it's coming up for you. Of course it is. We know this is not a mystery. What is the true thing that no one knows or sees? And that true thing might be hard. It might be humiliating. It might be terrifying to admit. Maybe that true thing is simply what you need or want. Maybe that true thing is what you believe, what your spiritual curiosity looks like. We'll get into that hardcore on week 4. But what is it? If you let it come up in you, I wonder if you can just be still with it. Let it be there. Let it live truly right there in your thoughts. You know what it is. And let me ask you this. Would you be willing to even imagine, just in the privacy and the safety of your mind, would you be willing to imagine how truth might set you free right there in that thing, in the thing that came up? Could you even let yourself imagine how truth might work its magic? Now, let me be honest, and you know it too. Sometimes with truth, things get worse before they get better, right? Because if something is held together with a lie and you bring truth into it and that thing starts crumbling, this creates some turmoil. It just does. For you, maybe inside a relationship, maybe in your workplace, maybe in your church or faith space. It just does. This is not the worst thing that ever happened. You can handle this. We can handle this. We can handle this. Don't we want to live in such a way that the most important elements of our lives are not duct taped together with pretending? Right? What's that? What's that life? It's no life at all. And so I want you to be willing to imagine that, yes, saying that thing out loud, it might create some turbulence, and it probably will. But could you let yourself imagine what might it look like on the other side of that? If truth could redeem it, if truth could bring it from the darkness into the light, if it could shine this like warm light of safety onto it, on honesty, sincerity, what could it look like if that thing got to live free? That's our work. Nobody can do this for you. I wish I could. I wish some people could do my work for me. I wish somebody else could have come in and learned my lessons and done it for me, stood in my shoes, walked my path. But this is mine and it's yours, and you're the only one to do it. I'm going to finish with the reading and then we switch to questions. Okay, Team Jen? So at the end of this reading, I need my question. Okay, sorry. And I realize that you're reading this, but I also just like to read to you. I like to read to you. I like to bring us together around certain paragraphs and let this be the words over you here this first week. Who you are matters. Your soul is cause for great delight. There's freedom in this discovery and absolute liberation in its ownership. When who you are on the inside matches the outside, you are ready for everything else. So embrace your rational, principled, restrained self. or your demonstrative, generous, service-minded self, or your sensitive, expressive, creative self, or your intense, perceptive, cerebral self, engaging, responsible, loyal, fun-loving, spontaneous, extroverted, powerful, ambitious, confident, easygoing, agreeable, gentle, spicy, confrontational, bold, private, careful, quiet, tender, emotional, graceful, wild, silly, outrageous. There is so much good hand woven into every human person. Such beauty. So many gifts to be spilled generously onto the rest of us. We must show up truthfully because it is in the diversity of our souls this world receives all it needs. We do not need you to be like your neighbor. We already have her. We need you, not for what you do, but who you are. Please be her. Please do not shrink or twist or lie or buckle. Please do not mislabel your beautiful inmost being as too weak, too strong, too little, too much. Stop apologizing. Stop shape shifting. Do the work and show up for your life because you are the only one who could live it, and the rest of us need you. Guys, this is it. Let's do it. Let's just chase freedom together. Isn't that exciting to think of? Just a bunch of women unleashed into their beautiful lives, absolutely free, nothing to protect or hide, nothing to pretend about anymore. Oh, I love it. This is my vision for women. Okay, give me a question, Team Jen. I'm going to turn my attention to some of your questions. Here's the first one from Ashley. Oh, hi, Ashley. What was the hardest part about writing this book for you? And have you applied what you've learned to your life? That's a really good question. Okay. The hardest part of writing Fierce was deciding how much truth I was going to share. Isn't that hilarious? I mean, believe me, I hear the irony in what I just said. But just remember, when I started writing this more than 2 years ago, it was at the genesis of this sort of work that we are doing in our community. And I just thought, how much can I say? How far can I go? How honest can I be? While if you know me and you've been around me for some time, I am pretty transparent. That's true. Like if you experience me as transparent and primarily authentic, I want you to know that's real. That's not a put on for me. I'm not faking you. That is who I am. But I also have discretion, and I also have parts of my life that I hadn't really spoken about super publicly. Some of that's my Enneagram 3 energy. Oh, guys, we didn't even get to talk about the Enneagram. Oh my gosh. By the way, you have to go listen to the Enneagram series that we just started on my podcast, on the For the Love podcast. It's a 10-week series, and the first episode just released last week. It's going to be incredible, just absolutely incredible. But anyway, my Enneagram 3 energy struggles sometimes with, I'm worried sometimes that when I am too vulnerable, it won't be protected. Does that make sense? Like, I am afraid that if I take it all the way down to the studs and really go into some of those places, that for some reason that might be used against me. What am I, in a spy movie? Am I like Jason Bourne? Who's going to use it against me? I mean, what even does that mean? It's very melodramatic. But I did think, I wasn't sure how much I could tell. As it turns out, I said it all. I said it all. The day before Fierce came out, it came out on April 21st. And on April 20th, I texted a friend and I was like, oh no. Like, I've said too much and it's too late. It's published. It's published. It's shipping. It's coming to their mailboxes. But I want to say that, as expected, my community has been so generous and so kind and held what was true and real and hard for me and in my story with such tender hands. And I think we can do this for each other. And so I want to thank you for that. And I want to tell you something too. And this is going to have an air of discretion about it, but I want to tell you that I am using what I learned, because this is like, this is not a memoir. This is a toolkit. This was this is a resource book, and it's everything that got me here to this free moment. But I want to tell you that I am learning some of those, using some of the lessons right this minute on some really, really monumental, important repair. And pretending is the worst enemy. And truth, while sometimes creating some chaotic turbulence, we've got to trust truth. We have got to trust its grain. It is on the side of good and right things. It is. It just is. And so I am putting my chips on truth right now, saying the truth, hearing the truth, trusting the truth, applying it to my own self-awareness, and trusting it to restore. So yes, I am using it right this very minute, like this very day even. Thank you. What's the next question? I'm gonna have a blueberry. Hallie, what do I do when my spouse and I feel disconnected because I'm uncovering my best and real self while he's not? Oh, Hallie. Okay. First of all, I love you. I see you. I hear you. And I want to hold a little bit of room for what feels probably scary and new. Okay. So that is, this is normal. This is normal. Like I said, when we begin to live into truth, it creates some turmoil. Because everybody in our world, our spouses, our kids, our coworkers, they have been depending on that old version that we offered the world, right? That's who they came to know. And we were probably patching up a lot of unhealthy spots with our silence, with our complicity. We weren't telling the truth. And so once we take that away, this gets a little weird. Okay. Here's what I want to say. You still have the right to live free in your own life. Okay. If you can just get that straight. And this is not against a husband. This is not to spite a spouse. None of that. None of that. This is your right as a woman to be free. That's it. Your husband has it too. He is absolutely free to be true in his own good life. And so this is yours. So that's not up for grabs. I hope that you can put that over here and say, this is not up for negotiation. Like, it's important to me to be integrated. I want to just say this. You can survive the turmoil and be gentle and be kind. This is not a time to blame, because I hope you can hear this. We don't get to blame other people because we haven't been showing up truthfully in our own life. I say this to myself too, Hallie. This is not just you. Like, we can't be mad at somebody else. The way that we have put ourselves out in the world, if we have said, this is, no, I do like this when we don't. No, I do want to do this when we don't. No, this is fine. If we have been saying that, then people have the right to believe us. They have the right to believe that we've been meaning what we say. So when we finally decide to get real about that, it's clunky for them, because they're like, yeah, but what about this you, this version of you? That's what you said. That's how you were. It's okay to go through a little tunnel of chaos right now. You will and can emerge on the other side. And here's the thing, inside relationships that are mutual, where you love him and he loves you, where you both want each other's best interest, right? Where there's no relationship is perfect. You cannot hear me say that. Oh my gosh, Lord have mercy. But when you are both kind of on each other's team, truth will eventually give you the relationship of your dreams. And he will want that version of you. He will want that. That's your highest self. That is you contributing to your relationships healthy, whole, honestly. These are the things that make relationships come to life. Okay. And so if you can imagine that the work you're doing right now ultimately will absolutely benefit your marriage, benefit your partnership, then you can handle a little bit of chaos in the meantime. Be tender with him. He's rattled. Here you are, grabbing onto what's true. Be gentle. This is not his work, it's yours. And so you can say, yeah, I understand that this is a little disorienting, right? To watch me be honest in my own life. And you know what you can also do? Own it. You can say, I need to say, I'm sorry for faking my way through this, this, and this. I'm sorry for not saying what I really thought, what I really felt, what I really meant. Like, that wasn't your fault. I said this and you believe me, and why wouldn't you? There's some ownership that you can have here, which will go miles, miles down the road. Okay. It's a really long answer. I'm cheering for you, Hallie. I am team Hallie. I am team every person who is afraid to put a little bit of chaos into their relationships. But I'm here to tell you, this is the way to set our relationships free. Trust it. Trust truth. What's my next question, girls? Cindy, how do we live as our truest selves when people around us claim professionalism is more stoic and masculine? Ooh, it's a great question. So interesting. In one of these chapters, let's see, which chapter did I put in where I really talked about, it's later, we're not to it yet, but we did a lot of research. You know that Fierce was heavily researched. My friend, Dr. Jessica Fry, she's got her PhD in psychology. She helped me, she come through tens of thousands of pages of data and research, and we condensed and compiled it into something usable for normal people like me. She'd send me stuff and I'm like, I need you to help me understand this. Anyway, interestingly, we read a lot of data about women and men in the workplace. And while it is true that sometimes a masculine energy is more rewarded inside certain corporate environments, that's 100% true. Like, there's not a woman alive who doesn't know that. The data also suggests that the qualities that both men and women, so that both genders reported as what they respected out of women, was our emotional intelligence, our capacity for teamwork, team building, sharing the microphone, sharing credit, all the things that women are a little bit more naturally good at. And so while the male rewards are sometimes front and center because of just pay for a million reasons, because men have always run the world, and they are primarily in charge of almost every space, and they've written the narratives and they've written the rules and they have enforced the rules. So we're in an uphill battle here. But even inside of those long held cultural norms, men and women report that the skills that women bring to the table are crucial. They are respected. They are admired. Okay, they're not less. They're actually not less. Now, the one critique against women is that, again, by men and women, both reported, sometimes wish that women in the workplace would be more direct. That's fair. That's a fair critique. Again, that goes back to our conditioning to keep the peace, right? To keep the peace all the time, which is no peace. Nobody feels the peace because it's just not true. And so I think we have the capacity, even inside our emotional giftings, to just be more direct in the workplace. But let's not just concede all of our feminine power to what is sometimes considered a more masculine structure, but rather say, this is what I bring to the table, and it serves us well. It serves our corporation, it serves our community, it serves our business, it serves our company, it serves our clients, it serves the staff, and it does. We've got to believe that first. And so what that looks like is women holding their ground. Doesn't mean we are all the things that they say about us when we are assertive. You know the things: bitchy, hysterical, emotional. Those are just dog whistles to keep us quiet. We can still be strong in our spaces. And so be you, but be you strongly, right? Be you strongly. All right. We probably have time for maybe one more. One more question, Team Jen. Aw, Katie. What is saving your life right now? For those of you who don't know, that is the question, the final question that I ask every single guest on my podcast. I got that question from Barbara Brown Taylor, who is an Episcopal priest and a sage in our time. And I love that question. And I always tell people they can answer it however they want. They can answer it sincerely or absurdly. I see that I'm frozen on the screen, but I'm just going to keep talking in case it comes back. Okay. What is saving my life right now is my husband, Brandon. We are doing some real heavy lifting over here, community, real heavy lifting. And we're doing the work, and we are getting still and looking at each other's eyes and saying true and good and hard things. And we are hearing true and good and hard things. And we are drawing near to each other with everything we have. And it's everything that means anything to me right now. It's everything that matters. And we've been married for 26 years. And that's my God. That's my person. That's my person. We've built a whole life, a whole beautiful life, a whole family. And so that's it. Brandon Hatmaker is saving my life right now. This part may not even be on. For me, I look frozen, but if you can still hear me, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here on this very first happy hour. So much more to come every week. Invite your friends. Like, everybody can come. It's just the widest front door that you could ever imagine. Invite your friends and come back next week. Same time, same place. We're going to move into section 2, what I need. I got so much to say about this. Nominate your friends for free audiobooks and ebooks. Just go back to the registration link. And then we'll email you out the workbook for section 2. Use it. Put your pen to paper and use it. Okay, that's it, you guys. Love you dearly. Can't wait to see you next week.